This MCU ranking is special because it's the first one where there's an R-rated movie on the list. So in the spirit of Deadpool and Wolverine, LFG, baby. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got my updated ranking of all 34 MCU movies from my least favorite to my favorite. This list is ever changing. I make this video every time a new MCU movie drops, and there's always some shifts because my MCU ranking is always changing. I'm looking through it on Letterboxd. I have it privated so people can't always see it. And I go through and I wonder, how do I feel about this movie now compared to, 5 months ago? Of course, with this video, Deadpool and Wolverine is included, so stay tuned to find out where that one lands. It could get controversial, that's all I'm going to say. But before I dive into this, be sure to hit that like button. It helps out more than you guys know. And comment down below your ranking of the MCU movies. Where does Deadpool and Wolverine place for you if you've seen it? Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. If you want extra content, we're talking exclusive reaction videos, commentary tracks, live Q&As. You can find that on my Patreon. Your support over there means a lot. Anything goes a long way. Without further ado, let's rank all 34 MCU flicks. And I'm not going to waste my breath talking about some of these because I've done this video a lot, and if I don't like a movie, and I've said that a lot, there's not much else to add here. At number 34, in dead last, is Thor: Love and Thunder. It's painfully unfunny, and I never see myself revisiting it. Not much above that, I've got Thor: The Dark World at number 33. Maybe the most boring movie in the MCU somehow. At 32, I've got The Incredible Hulk, a movie that feels so disconnected from the MCU. I genuinely forget it's a part of the cinematic universe, and again, I never have the urge to go rewatch this one, though I probably will have to before Brave New World comes out. At 31, I've got Captain Marvel, just a very bland entry in the MCU. Nick Fury and Captain Marvel's chemistry shines here. Goose, the Flurkin, has those moments to shine and is absolutely adorable, but the movie's just so bland and doesn't really have anything that makes it stand out. At 30, I've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, Sam Raimi directs it, but that doesn't give this movie a pass. Sure, I see his vision as a director here, and he's got those Raimi shots, but the movie itself is a complete mess that mishandles the Illuminati. Frustrating watch for sure, and it feels like Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange are battling for whose movie this is, when they should have just made Doctor Strange 2 and then a solo Scarlet Witch project instead. This movie is real messy and real frustrating to watch. At number 29, I have Eternals. The scale is huge. There's like 11 to 12 main characters, and because of that, it's hard to really fully connect with many of them, and the movie feels like it's trying to introduce these grand concepts that shift ideologies of the cinematic universe. In a 2.5-hour runtime, that's just not possible. So it does come off a bit convoluted, a bit of a mess. I do really like individual characters in this film, and I wish we got to explore them more. I don't think we're ever going to see an Eternal sequel, though. At 28, I've got Ant-Man and the Wasp. The post-credit scene is one of the best the MCU has to offer. The movie itself is a fine chase film, pretty much. It's the weakest Ant-Man to me, though. At 27, I've got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This movie's fallen in my ranking. I saw it once in theaters, and I was like, guys, this is fun. I was like in the minority. Haven't thought about it since I saw it in theaters. Now that I'm like removed from it enough, I can say, I don't know if I ever want to go back to it again. I can enjoy the one watch I had with it, but its meaning in the overall MCU feels like it gets lessened every single day, especially with where we're headed regarding Kang. And at the end of the day, if I don't have the urge to go back and visit a movie like this, it probably wasn't all that. I'll revisit it one day, but I really just haven't had the desire to do so. The same can be said for my number 26, which is The Marvels. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this movie more than most. It's a fun time. Miss Marvel is the absolute scene stealer, and seeing Nick Fury with Miss Marvel's family during the film made for some great comedic bits. But the movie does have a really hectic start. The villain's weak, and again, I don't see myself revisiting this one when compared to some of the earlier MCU films that I initially had lower in my ranking. I've thought about that a lot lately. A lot of the 2021, 2022, 2023 films I had higher. I think it was just because I had initially seen them. But now that I've had time to marinate with them more, they've fallen back a bit, and some of those earlier Phase 1 movies that I had lower have risen. At number 25 on my list is Black Widow. I've been a defender of this movie since it released. I still think it has awesome moments. Yelena and Nat's chemistry as sisters shines. David Harbour's Red Guardian is an absolute scene stealer, and I do really love the character of Yelena, but this movie's plagued by atrocious villains. Dreykov, god-awful, like arguably the worst villain in the MCU, and the Taskmaster reveal stunk. Really brought the movie down. Sure, there's some great action, and the chemistry between characters is there. Like, the family story works. There was a point in time where I was like, yeah, Black Widow's like a comfort movie. But again, I haven't gone back to this movie since 2021, and I don't see myself doing so anytime soon, unfortunately, so I gotta put it lower. I was redoing my list last night, and I had like this awakening where I was like, wow, I have a lot of these newer phase movies way too high on my list. At number 24 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This is a sequel that did what it could given the circumstances. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You cannot replace Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. The movie does its best with what it's given. It honors his legacy, pulls on the heartstrings with those emotional moments, but I can't help but feel like they rushed through a good bit of that as well. When I think back to this movie, I think about a few things. Number one, it's long as hell. Number two, there's a lot going on. You've got the introduction of Riri Williams as Ironheart. You've got Shuri now taking on the mantle of Black Panther. You've got the Everett Ross storyline ongoing with Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And then you've got everything involving Namor. There's a lot to process with this movie. It's overstuffed. Sure, it's got the sweet moments that honor Chadwick's portrayal of Black Panther, but the movie as a whole has way too much going on. And because it is an emotionally taxing journey, I don't really see myself ever wanting to revisit Wakanda Forever. At number 23, I've got Iron Man 3, a movie that I've been a critic of since I saw it in theaters because of its handling of the Mandarin. However, Shang-Chi was able to redeem parts of that and make it, less painful when I revisit Iron Man 3. But Tony Stark is my favorite character in the MCU, so that alone carries a lot of weight. Iron Man 3 is my least favorite Iron Man film, but I do have to respect that, hey, it's an important movie for Tony as a character. Sure, it's got a very one-note villain and the extremist stuff I could do without. But for Tony's character arc, this movie is crucial. And when I look at the big picture, I'm like, I've had this movie lower oftentimes, but I would go to Iron Man 3 before a lot of the recent projects that I have dropped on my list, just because he's such a comfort character for me. I'd rather watch Tony Stark, not even in the suit for most of the movie, but dealing with this, PTSD, than have to go watch, something like Eternals. At number 22, I have the original Thor, a movie that's epic, and I think people forget that. If you go back and rewatch it, like the first 30 minutes, wild stuff happens. You've got the whole battle with Thor, Loki, and the Frost Giants, and then Thor gets banished to Earth. Over the course of the film, Thor goes on this journey to try and find himself and be worthy enough to lift Mjolnir again. Natalie Portman's Jane in this film is great, and then you've got Dr. Eric Selvig in here. I mean, this is like a foundational movie for the MCU. It's one of the original films. It has that classic MCU feel. Plus, it's the first time we see Tom Hiddleston as Loki and Hemsworth as Thor. Those two characters have come so far in the MCU. And with the addition of the Loki series, I respect this movie even more, and Loki as a villain. At number 21, I have Iron Man 2, which I'm aware is a hot take, but I have tons of nostalgia for this film. Like, this is the first MCU movie I saw in theaters, okay? I am aware there's a lot going on. It's trying to set up the Avengers. You've got Justin Hammer, Whiplash, Black Widow being introduced. I get it. But again, Tony Stark, my favorite character in the MCU, and I've seen this movie more than most of the movies below it. I watched the hell out of this movie growing up, and I could still watch it today and enjoy it quite a bit. I think it contains some of the best Iron Man action we have, like the suit-up scene at Monaco is sick. The finale action showdown with Iron Man and War Machine back-to-back versus Whiplash and all his bots. Incredible stuff. Like, this movie's action-packed. It gives us Black Widow. It works towards setting up the Avengers. Yes, it's messy, structurally speaking, but I have such a good time watching it that I really don't mind letting some things slide, specifically with how messy it can get. Bringing us into the top 20 is Spider-Man: Far From Home, which might be the weakest live-action Spider-Man film, but again, I'll die on this hill. There is no bad live-action Spider-Man movie. Gyllenhaal's having a blast as Mysterio. I do wish we got more web swinging in this film, and the character of Brad is super irritating, but a highlight of this movie, without a shadow of a doubt, is the romance between MJ and Peter. At number 19, I've got the original Black Panther, a movie that I foolishly had lower than like a lot of the newer stuff for a while. I don't know why, I just kind of didn't change my rankings for a bit there and was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep it like this. No, Black Panther is a top 20 MCU movie. Is it one that I adore? No. I think upon its release, it was a tad bit overrated. I don't know if it deserved the Best Picture nom compared to some of the other comic book films that came out that year, notably Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think that's a better film by a lot. But Black Panther is a very good origin story that has a banging score from Ludwig Göransson, who went on to win an Oscar for Oppenheimer. He won an Oscar for the score for this movie. He is the new Hans Zimmer. I don't even think that's a hot take. Killmonger is one of the more understood villains in the MCU, and for a while, I just thought Black Panther was overrated, and I was like, I'll leave it down here. But as we've gotten a new crop of MCU films, and I've kind of seen what they've been cooking with, I'm like, Black Panther's better than those movies. I don't know what I was thinking. I still have it at 19 out of 34. That's pretty good. Like, it's not one I'm going to revisit over all the movies I have above it, but Black Black Panther is by no means a bad movie. Like, we're getting into territory where I think all these movies are like 4 out of 5 or higher, and that's a lot of the MCU. It's been one of the most consistently great franchises for a reason. It's the highest grossing franchise of all time for a reason. It's doing something right. At number 18, I've got Doctor Strange, which to this day still has some of the coolest visual effects in the MCU. This is how you do an origin story for a character like Stephen Strange. He fits that Tony Stark archetype so well. I dig this one. I don't go back to it as much as I used to. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. At number 17, I've got Captain America: The First Avenger, a classic MCU flick. I still remember being devastated as the credits rolled when Cap says he had a date. That pulls on the heartstrings. Plus, this movie is important in the greater picture of the MCU, setting up Cap being frozen in the ice, setting up Bucky Barnes. It's a really important, pivotal movie to the MCU, especially with the Tesseract as well. At 16, I've got Avengers: Age of Ultron, maybe the most over-hated MCU flick. Very fun watch. It's the only Avengers film where we really get to see them as a family for the entirety of the runtime. Like, the stuff at Clint Barton's place, awesome. You've got Tony Stark and Cap chopping logs and having conversations. They're just plotting. This is where we actually get to see them as a team. James Spader plays the character of Ultron so well with that iconic voice. I'll never forget when we saw that first teaser. There are no strings on me. It's just that iconic, deep, scary voice. This gave us Vision. This gave us Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. It's another one of those pivotal movies in moving the MCU forward in the Infinity Saga. At 15, I've got Thor Ragnarok, a movie that when I first saw it was super fresh for the MCU, but as years pass, I'm like, the comedy just doesn't hit the same. And with the inclusion of Love and Thunder in the MCU now, it kind of brings out some of the flaws in Ragnarok, in my opinion. The Gladiator-esque showdown between Thor and Hulk is a highlight of this movie, and then you've got the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin playing on the bridge. How could you not get chills in that? It's so sick. But the movie doesn't hit as much as it once did in 2017 in my eyes. At 14, I've got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm kind of getting nostalgic about this movie in a weird way. Like, this was the first MCU movie to hit fully in theaters post-pandemic, because Black Widow did like Disney Plus premiere the same day, and it was so awesome. The action still holds up. It lets us get a look at this fantasy side of the MCU, and I want more of this character yesterday. I don't know what is going on. Why have we not gotten a sequel to this movie yet? Even during a time where movies were just bombing because people were afraid to go out because of the pandemic, this movie still made a decent amount of money. We need more of this character. At 13, I've got the original Ant-Man. Paul Rudd knocks it out of the park. The movie's hilarious, especially with the side character Luis, and it's the MCU's heist film. Need more movies like Ant-Man. At 12, I've got maybe my hottest take in the video. I like this movie a lot, but by putting it here, people will automatically already start typing in the comments. I can see you right now. You hate it. You hate it. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Very good movie. Best comic book film of all time. Get out of here with that. It's got that highly stylized action. It's a spy thriller in the MCU. Bucky's awesome here. You've got, the Cap and Natasha friendship. It gives us Sam Wilson. But I think the third act is a bit underwhelming, if you will. It kind of peaks with the highway fight, in my opinion. The third act with the different helicarriers, like, it's okay, and the Cap Bucky stuff's cool, but I just don't think this movie's as groundbreaking as people make it out to be, in my opinion. It's very good. It's a top 12 MCU movie, but I have 11 movies that I put over it in the MCU, in my opinion. At 11, I've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Talk about a comeback story. This movie used to be really low in my ranking, but rewatching it before Volume 3 made it skyrocket for me. The father-son relationship hits, and then it hits even harder when you realize Ego's a piece of shit. And then you've got that whole scene with Ego telling Peter it hurt like hell to put that tumor in your mom's brain. And Chris Pratt's acting there is, chill-inducing. Baby Groot's so cute and steals the show. It's got another bop of a soundtrack, and the movie's action-packed. The finale's a home run, and Guardians 2 might be, somehow, the saddest of the 3 Guardians. Yondu's sacrifice never fails to get the tears swelling. And at the end, when all the Ravagers pay their respect to him, it's just so beautiful. God, the Guardians trilogy is great. We'll talk more about the other 2 in a second. And before I get into my top 10, hit the like button if you haven't already, and comment down below your favorite MCU films and your ranking. At number 10, controversial to some, Spider-Man: Homecoming. This is a pure coming-of-age Spider-Man flick with a top-tier MCU villain in the Vulture. I talk about it every time I talk about this movie, but the reveal when Peter goes to Liz's door and Michael Keaton's Vulture opens it and he says, "You must be Peter." Ooh. The best scene in this movie is when Vulture is driving Peter and Liz to Homecoming, and he's slowly putting together the pieces that Peter is Spider-Man. That is the most tense scene in this movie, and it's so great. I just love seeing a coming-of-age Spider-Man flick. It's a feel-good movie to me. At number 9, I've got the original Avengers. I think the Avengers might be the most rewatchable MCU movie. That does not mean it is the best MCU movie, but I think it could be argued it is the most rewatchable MCU movie. It's perfectly paced, it hits on all the major emotional beats, and I watched it 3 times in theaters back in 2012. I didn't do that often at the time. This was historic for me. I don't go back to it as much as I would like to, just because we have so much to watch from the MCU now. It can be daunting to go revisit it, but if I were to rank these movies by rewatchability, I could argue The Avengers is number 1 on that list. It is iconic, classic, the first ultimate big team-up movie in the MCU. The circle shot might be the best shot from the MCU. At number 8, this is where the fun begins, I've got Deadpool and Wolverine. I've only seen it once. I'm going to see it for round 2 later today. But my God, did I love this movie. I was just smiling ear to ear the entire time I was watching it. It was action-packed. There's 4 to 5 action scenes I can pinpoint right now that I want to watch on YouTube for the rest of the time. One in particular burned into my brain forever. I had a blast with this movie, but it's not just because there's action. It's not just because it's absolutely hilarious. It's because of the heart. Both Deadpool and Wolverine have meaningful journeys that they go on in this film with their characters. Deadpool is someone who is at a point in his life where he wants to matter. He wants to be more than just himself and mean something as a hero. And then you got Wolverine, who from his respective universe, I won't spoil anything, he's down on his luck. He's depressed. He's a disappointment in his universe, and he needs that redemption. So you pair these 2 characters together, and behind all of, the violence, the gore, the blood, the jokes filled with language, there's a lot of heart, and there's a story about embracing your past and learning from it so you can grow and be a better person and be a hero. Strive to be better for those around you. This movie means something, and a lot of people will say, it's just a cameo fest, it's shallow bullshit. I don't like that take. You can have that take, and we can talk about it. I disagree with it. Fundamentally, this movie is more than just throwing cameos in your face. It's got tons of heart, and it also pays respect to the Fox era of Marvel. This movie rules. It is awesome. I cannot wait to watch it for years to come. I'll have a spoiler review coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But man, oh man, I can't get enough of Deadpool and Wolverine. At number 7 on my list, I've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Maybe the saddest movie in the MCU. It's just so devastating to watch that I don't go back to it as much as I would like. But it has a different soundtrack and maybe the best. The one-take hallway scene at the end when all the Guardians are kicking ass stands out to me, and the dog days are over. What a beautiful, happy, feel-good, emotional send-off to the Guardians. James Gunn, you knocked it out of the park with this one, my friend. And talking about James Gunn, at number 6, I've got the original Guardians. You want to go with the rewatchability argument? Avengers and Guardians have to be in that conversation. Guardians was the most unique, different MCU movie at the time, and it was still a home run. Marvel took an absolute risk here, and it paid off, and then some. This movie works because you got this unconventional, lovable family forming over the course of the film. It feels like classic Star Wars, like the original trilogy. It's fun, it's exhilarating. This is a classic MCU movie. Bringing us into the top 5, at number 5, Spider-Man No Way Home. I adore this movie. I have said many times, and I firmly believe it is the definitive Spider-Man movie, not only because it has all 3 live-action Spider-Men, because Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, goes through the ringer here. He loses Aunt May, he loses everything, but at the end of the day, he knows he's got to put on that mask and be Spider-Man for the greater good. He's at his lowest of lows, and it takes Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, the same people from different universes, to come to him and relate to him and say, hey, with great power comes great responsibility. It gives us all 3 Spider-Men swinging in live action. It gives us Dafoe's Goblin. It gives us Molina's Doc Ock, but it's got a meaningful message, and this movie is just such a celebration of Spider-Man. How could I not love it? At number 4, I've got Captain America Civil War, the movie that handles conflict better than any in the MCU. I'll never forget flip-flopping when I was first watching this film. Don't bullshit me, Rogers. Did you know? Whoo! Gave us Spidey in the MCU. Gave us Black Panther in the MCU. It rules. It's Avengers 2.5, and I love it. At number 3 is the original Iron Man, the movie that kickstarted the MCU, a movie that I've seen tons of times over the course of my life, and a movie that still hits to this day. Tony Stark goes from this Playboy weapons manufacturer to actually seeing what his work is doing in another part of the world. He's disgusted. He comes back. He wants to make a change. He goes on a great journey in this film. It sets up his whole arc for the MCU, and I am Iron Man. What an ending. And then my number 2 and my number 1 are the 1-2 punch that is number 2 Endgame, number 1 Infinity War. The MCU might not reach this height ever again, and that's okay, because this was history, ladies and gentlemen. Endgame is that epic conclusion with the perfect 3-act structure. Again, I could talk about it for days, but that final hour is perfection. And then at number 1, Infinity War, is the most shocking MCU movie out there. You've got action from beginning to end. The Russo brothers handle these character groupings across the universe so well, and it ends with Thanos, the villain, winning. Holy hell, I was stunned. My whole theater was. They killed off half the heroes. This was the lowest of lows for the heroes, and then in Endgame, they find a way to come back and win the fight. Infinity War Endgame, perfect 1-2 punch. It just doesn't get better than this, guys. I wish I could count them as one big movie. I kind of view it that way. It is cinema. It is the MCU. But guys, that does it for my updated MCU ranking. I'm sweating as always. This video is a lot of talking, so it's a long one. Hopefully you had a drink or a snack to get you through it. I want to emphasize this list is ever changing. I'll make this again when Captain America Brave New World comes out, and some movies could shift if I've rewatched them, if I've thought more about them. It's never set in stone. It's just how I'm feeling when I sit down to hit record. It's also just my opinion. You're allowed to have yours, so comment it down below, please. I want to hear what you think of my list, and I want to hear your list. Where does Deadpool and Wolverine land? Let me know that, and of course, subscribe to that notification bell to be notified for all my future videos, including a Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review. But that's going to do it. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.